Welcome to the Nashville Current Podcast. I am your host, Ed Clay, and today we have Kahlil Arnold. Kahlil, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you face to face.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people know you in Nashville. You've been a lifer here.
Born and raised, born at born at Baptist Hospital with my four brothers and sisters, and been here. All of us went to different high schools and went to Hillwood High School. So yeah, born and raised.
Yeah, born and raised. I was born at Baptist too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went to
See,
Overton.
It's a small world.
Small world. But I hear that we're unicorns now.
I have a couple of shirts. Yeah, Nashville Unicorn. We're We're definitely the few.
I'd like to get one of those, actually. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, Arnold's is a staple in Nashville. I think probably everybody who's lived here for a long time has been there. And then you got all the tourists that come in and hear about Arnold's.
Yeah. Well, we're actually doing an event coming up with Sean Brock, and I thought it was one of the coolest things. He did an article in the Nashville Scene, and he said, you know, he's like, Arnold's, they're like, why'd you pick Arnold's? And he was like, well, Arnold's is the place when the people get off the airport. It's the first place I take my out-of-town guest. You know, he was like, that's when you think of Nashville, you think of Arnold's. And so to me, with somebody a chef that's world-renowned, you know, resonates when he says something like that to me. It just gives you goosebumps that you get to carry on your family tradition and that you're still you're respected. Because, I just think of it as Southern food. It's like, it's just Southern food. It's nothing special. But when a chef like Sean Brock, you know, says something like that, it just, you know, makes you proud and just, you know, super excited to be a part of Nashville.
No, that's incredible. That's incredible. You know, I think that part of what is the appeal of Arnold's is the food is amazing, but it's the environment that you and your family have created. Like, what really kind of sparked the idea of Arnold's?
You know, I have to say it's my dad. You know, he was always he still is. He's definitely a character. He always tried to make everybody feel important, and always had a joke for everybody. And he was just one of those guys that just lit up a room. So I guess, you know, he taught me when I was young to just kind of always make people feel important. And I guess kind of took that and treat everybody like family. I mean, half the employees there are family, you know. So it's like we fight with each other, but we still love each other, you know. And it's one of those things where I try to make everybody come in, and when they come in, make them feel like family. I've worked at other restaurants that the food wasn't the best, but I'll never forget about 20 years ago, this woman was just like, you know, the food was okay, but you just made me feel like I was a member of your family, and I want to come back just to appreciate how warm you were and how nice you are. And it just, you know, it just kind of dawned on me then. I was like, wait a second, now I see what my dad was doing all these years. You know, we just try to make everybody come in, you know, and feel like family. It doesn't matter where you're from, what color you are, where you are in life, whether you're, you know, down on the street, homeless, or you are a governor, or, you know, it doesn't really matter. I think it's the big cool thing about Arnold's is the greatest equalizer because it's not expensive. We try to serve, you know, good local food and just try to make everybody feel like there's somebody special there. I don't know. It's just kind of, in my opinion, that's kind of what Nashville has always been and was a melting pot of huge diversity, of ethnicity, of wealth, and of just everybody knew everybody, even if you were famous, and you were still treated the same. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to explain it as the city's grown, and I love that people are coming to our city and love our city.
Yeah.
But it's hard to really explain, hey, we got to make sure we don't lose that character, because what you're just saying, like, you know, Nashville, yes, it was a very, very inclusive place. You know, you were treated pretty much equally. And, you know, I think that is one of the big appeals of Arnold's is the fact that you do treat, you know, you do treat everybody the same.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, when you go in somewhere, you know, we're not one of these places that it's, you know, go in there for the decor. You don't go in there for, you know, it's the most amazing, prettiest dish you've ever seen in your life. You go in there for, you know, the hospitality, number one. Go in there and you make someone feel special. Like, just, we're thankful for somebody to spend their time with us. So I'm grateful for that. And then you go in there for good old Southern cooking, you know. I mean, it's stuff that you would have found on mom and dad's farm. We still make it all fresh. It's just you feel like you're going to grandma's house, as people have said before, and that's how we try to make you feel. You know, grandma's house you always leave super full, and the thing is, it's not a special occasion, but it almost feels like it is when people come in there. You know, to us, I appreciate their time. I appreciate them coming. I mean, without the loyalty of the Nashvillians, we still wouldn't be there after what's going on with this pandemic and everything. We have had so many people, loyal, keep coming and keeping us there. There's no way we would still be around without the support of Nashville right now. It shows you the difference between somebody who needs the support of local to somebody that depends on tourism. I mean, tourism does help us tremendously, but the people of Nashville have always sustained us, and for that, why not give them and make them feel like, to me, they are special, because without them, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't still be in business. So I'm very grateful for the people.
Well, and as a lifelong Nashvilleian as well, I was talking to Matt about it, and I said, actually we were both talking. If Arnold's goes, because I heard that you were having some big issues. If Arnold's goes, Nashville is over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel about it. And people don't realize the impact of it's just like a family dinner.
Yeah.
The impact of a place that really signifies what Nashville really is. I mean, your restaurant is, to me, the best of Nashville. That's what it is.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, like, we're just trying to embody what I learned as a kid and what Nashville was about, And when we were scared, I mean, knowing that, Stephanie Langston, I think she did a great job trying to get people aware of, that if we had sustained what happened in March and April and May, I mean, we wouldn't still be here. Nobody can afford losing money for 6 months, and then with a huge property tax increase on top of that. I mean, we were definitely afraid. I think I lost 20 pounds from the whole beginning of the pandemic to now, just not being able to sleep, being afraid of, seeing that first your business is shut down, can do to-go only, and to-go only you go from you lose 80% of what you were making. And then on top of that, then they're going to, increase taxes. And I mean, we were scared. We were freaked out. I mean, we still are. I think we're actually going to be doing a bar and stuff. And that was something I had planned to do eventually. It wasn't something I planned on doing now. And it was something that I have a senior in high school, and I want her to graduate. But I mean, if we don't do this now, number one, we won't be able to pay our bills. Number two, we won't be able to do taxes. I mean, there's so much that is going on right now, and just. But to answer your question better, I guess it's we're just lucky to still be here.
Yeah, no, I mean it's incredible what you've been through and what we've all been through during this, and I'm grateful that it did at least open back up some for you.
Yes, I can say that it's great. I mean, downtown's coming back. I think people are beginning to realize that if you just pay attention to your hygiene a little more, and to wear your mask and keep social distancing up, this isn't as bad as what they first made it out to be. I mean, it's still bad if you have a pre-existing condition. Not saying it's not, but when this first came out, I mean, you thought that if you even looked at somebody the wrong way, you were going to get it. It gets in your eyes. It gets everywhere. You touch the surface, 2 weeks later, you touch that same surface, it's over.
Yeah.
And I mean, they had everybody, me included, freaked out, and it's still something that's scary. But thank goodness that we're still around, and it seems like people are beginning to realize that if you can go to Walmart and you can go to Target and you don't get it every time you go in there, that wait a second, this isn't as scary as we thought it is, but you still need to be smart about it.
Well, and from my perspective, it was like fear porn.
Yeah.
It was like every time you turn on the TV, everything you look at on the internet.
Yeah.
Fear.
Yeah. I mean, it had everybody afraid. There's people that I know that just said, I quit watching TV. I quit watching TV and it went away. They were like, I was smart about it. I wash my hands. I, wear a mask, but it's like, yeah, it's fear bait. It had, I mean, we were freaked out. It had, everybody would come in the restaurant, a lot of customers. We almost had a couple of fights in the restaurant when this never happened in the, like I said, it's like a family place. when do you go to your grandma's house and start a fight? You know,
Right.
it's like we've had a couple people freak out. I mean, just over this, everybody was on high, you know, just wouldn't say high alert, but just everybody was just super tense.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, it's almost like they just kept it going and it kept everybody afraid, and everybody just, you know, nobody when you don't know what to do and you hear all this stuff, I mean, you're very anxious, and unfortunately that spilled over to even the food industry, and you know, and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, it seems like people are getting to breathe a little more and realizing that, you know, either they're freaking out because they've been in their house way too much, or you know, but fortunately it seems like people are coming out a little bit more.
Yeah, it was very, very fear-based. Actually, it still is fear-based. I mean, at least in the media. And unfortunately, I was actually talking to our chief medical officer, Dr. Francisco Mirancola. He was the former chief of infectious disease and immunogenetics for the National Institute of Health.
Wow.
And one of the top, you know, he's a super scientist.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him yesterday about this, and we're going to be working on a paper on cancer and coronavirus, and does cancer increase the risk of death? I don't think there's actually anything that actually says it does. It's the other pre-existing conditions, but we're going to be digging into that. But we're talking about this, and you know, there seems to be right now two sides: the side that says, "Oh, this is a complete joke," and the side that says, "This is the worst thing ever." It's like, this is horrible, or this is a complete joke. And the reality is, it's neither one of those. I mean, it's something that we should be aware of and concerned with, and do the best that we can to protect people. But it's not that there's a lot of things that are a lot worse. I mean, let's break this down. If you really look at it, hospital-acquired infections, about 100,000 people die every single year because of hospital-acquired infections. In nursing homes, about 25,000 people die every year. And that's a contagious type disease. They're getting it from somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, hospital errors, 250,000 to 450,000 people die every single year of errors in hospitals. And then you take cancer at 600,000, which you know, people say, well, it's not contagious. Fair enough, but 600,000. You got heart disease around 700,000. There's a lot of things that are dangerous as well. Car accidents, pretty dangerous. In our age group, Kahlil, you have a better chance of getting in a car and dying in a car accident going to work every day than you do of dying of coronavirus. And I don't know if you saw this last night. The CDC released numbers. I'm grateful that this has finally come out, because the numbers are, it's low, man. You know, 70 plus, I think it was like 5.2%, which is a lot. But, you know, you get in our age group, they had 30 to 49, 0.002. It is, or 0.02. It's astronomical. I mean, it's like, it's how low it is, actually. I don't know, astronomical. It's very, very low. And so I think that as that comes out, I hope people can take the information for what it is and not say, oh, we got to go out and this is nothing.
Yeah.
But also
100%.
say, like, if we can acknowledge fear as the problem, like, can we not just be more responsible and say, hey, I should be really, really careful, especially with my older family members and friends, but I shouldn't exactly worry myself to death over this.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not like what they're saying is go out and go raving downtown with 1 million people in a building. But if you're smart about it, I mean, from a restaurant perspective view, it was hard for us at the beginning when we were fed with fear that you don't want to get your employees sick. Half the employees are family. So the last thing I want to do is put my family in jeopardy. And to me, all my employees are family because they've been there forever. So that's the first thing you look at. Then the second thing we looked at was we don't want to get customers who have been coming there in jeopardy, you know, and so we looked at it from that perspective. And then the more this has gone along, like you said, the more we realize that, you know, if we're smart about it, we space out tables more and do stuff like that, then we feel safer for our employees. We feel safer for our customers. And then this thing came out with the mayor, and it's been retracted. I think Dennis Ferrer known him for a long time, and he's not the type of person to have ever falsified information all these years. That has never been his rhetoric or ever been blamed for something like that. And I don't think that's what he was trying to do. I believe he was just trying to, I've heard it back and forth, but he was trying to get the number out, saying, look how many lives you destroyed by shutting down these businesses for this long, based on, at first it was fear, but then you got the numbers on June 30th, and you had numbers showing that, the construction industry was the majority of the people spreading it, and not bars and restaurants. But yet, instead of shutting down, you're not going to shut down construction because they're a necessity, and because we need to keep building buildings, and we got to eventually make money on taxes. But anyway, we're not going to tax them to begin with, but we're going to wait. And anyway, so it's kind of frustrating when they said, well, we shared that information on June 30th. It was in the paper. Well, if that was the case, then how come myself and other people that run restaurants never heard of it until Dennis Ferrier highlighted it? So we're realizing that, you can obviously catch it in a slammed restaurant. Yes, you can catch it in a slammed. Anything that's super busy, you have the same odds of catching it. But when you knew that you were, to my opinion, catching it in construction faster than anywhere else, well, then why didn't you create some kind of guidelines for them as well? But yet here you are destroying, small family-owned businesses that are barely struggling to make it right now. You're going to, and when you pointed out, there's several things that are just as bad. They might not be as contagious as this, but they're just as bad. How many people will die of cancer and car wrecks and other stuff? But yet we still maintain to live our lives, knowing that fear is out there, and knowing that you still have a chance. If I go get in my car right now, I could die on the way back to work. Yeah. And a chance. But it's I guess for someone, a restaurant owner like myself, going through all these steps of the fear, trying to take care of your family, trying to figure out what's right. It feels like you were not fed a bunch of lies, but you're just like, you're on the other side, and you're like, yeah, if you're smart about it, you social distance, you wash your hands, you wear a mask, just don't be stupid. You'll be okay. You should be okay.
I think, it said cover up, and I think a better headline might have been manipulation. So I think that's really where it was at. And the numbers were out there. Yeah. I was reading the numbers. I did a piece on it in July because I knew, I look at data all day long in my day job. So I know how easily data can be skewed.
Gotcha.
It is, God, I can go into clinical trials and that whole game, but data is manipulated many, many times. And the United States as a country is manipulating the data and giving it to people in certain pieces. Nashville is in many ways and giving it to people in certain pieces. The mayor isn't a scientist, so he doesn't know how to read this data, and his staff doesn't really know how to read the data. And, it's very, very strange. It's like we didn't vote this mayor in, which I supported the mayor.
Yeah.
But we didn't vote him in to be our pandemic mayor.
Yeah.
Right. We voted him in to balance the budget and get things, our finances in order.
Exactly.
But the numbers, they were out there, but the media in Nashville has not been reporting on it. Nate Rao did, I think it was August 2nd or somewhere in there. He talked about it. And in the Tennessean article, they said, on July 2nd, he said it in the press conference. I watched the press conference. I went back. I'm like, God, where did he say this in the press conference? I remember hearing numbers. It was at around minute 30, and it was a quick little thing.
Yeah.
But, people don't know that they're not watching these press conferences.
No, they're not.
And the media is not reporting on the press conferences. And if the headline is wrong, nobody sees it because it's not getting fed to them on the internet or fed to them in the newsfeed. So the reality is, they were, from my reading those emails, they were trying to figure out how to lessen the blow of that data, which to me is manipulation. But everything is manipulation right now. That's politics.
That's the world we live in right now.
It's so I've been infuriated by this the last few months, feeling like I have no voice, knowing that I know more than most of the people that are up there.
Yeah.
And talking to my scientists, on a daily basis, pretty much. We don't agree on everything by far. We have healthy debates about different scientific topics, which you're supposed to be able to have. But now, if you have a debate about science, you're a science denier. Like science is like half of my life. I'm not a science denier, but your numbers are bullshit. Like, let's talk about the real statistics. Thank God the CDC came out yesterday talking about actually releasing the real data, what they expect the actual mortality rate to be. Thank God. Look at those numbers. Know what it means. Protect yourself. Don't say it's nothing. Don't say it's the big disaster. Be in the middle and reasonable and logical, and let's move forward. What can we at least agree that it's not going to kill everybody, especially if you're younger? Why not make the younger people feel responsible, take responsibility for your life, protect your grandparents and your parents?
Yeah.
But instead, fear, fear, fear. And what I get from the inside is, people don't respond to anything but fear. I mean, I was told that. They won't respond unless we scare them. Like, oh, really? Like, come on, man. That's where we're at, and that's why we're seeing what's happening.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing is wild. The whole thing is just, it's hard to comprehend. It's almost like it was out of a movie. Just the reality of what has happened, and then the different rhetoric on depending on who you listen to and who's manipulating what number. And like you said, it's almost like there's a clickbait title, and then there's information that's passed, but nobody sees it or hears it because of the manipulation of it all. Because if it had, a lot of people be up in arms. We're just, like I said, we're fortunate to be there still because our people in Nashville are taking care of us, but we're just kind of frustrated, like a lot of people, and just kind of ready for the truth. Then it seems like it's hard to find.
The truth shall set you free.
The truth shall set you free. And I wish, unfortunately, it depends. It just depends on where you're reading, and then keeping people at arms at each other, and realizing that most people before, it seems like in the past few years, past couple of presidents, it's gotten worse and worse, the rhetoric on both sides and the fear that people are, my God, countries used to admire us and how we transferred power from one party to another, and it was no big deal because we're all still Americans. We're all still people, white back, green, yellow, purple, whatever. We all, loved America more than anything else. And yet now when we pass power, it seems like people are getting angry, and it's like, wait a second, I've known you since second grade, and here I am arguing with you over something that really you and I are never going to control.
Sure. And
I think your family's great, and I think you're great, but here we are getting mad at each other for some silly stuff, and it comes back to fear. I mean, it almost seems like they've got you.
This is like it's a design.
Yeah.
It's meant to put us together or put us against each other. And I mean, I believe that we're in a civil war right now. And what I mean by that, it's not a civil war as in like the 1800s.
Yeah.
It's like a Cold War, because I mean, I have family, like I see family against family. I have some of my closest friends are like, they're not talking to their family right now because of politics. My God, one supports Trump, one supports Biden, and all of it. I can't believe that you would support Trump. The other side, I can't believe you support Biden. And they're getting their confirmation bias from their social media feed, which is programming their brain. I mean, the whole system is designed to program your brain. So it's programming you with confirmation bias to show you you're right all the time.
Yeah.
I'm so right. This is going through my feed, and all of a sudden I'm right and you're wrong, and then there's a division, and then there's war. Yeah. And that's where we're at. And it blows my mind. We've got to wake up. We have so much more in common than against each other.
Oh, I mean,
it's unbelievable.
We have way more in common with each other, Republican or Democrat. We're all pretty much at the same place in life. You're having kids, you're trying to pay your mortgage, you're trying to do what's right for your family. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're Christian, non-Christian, morals and non-morals. For the most part, we're all in this together. And the select few that are in power, I don't really. The last time I saw them really care and come to your church or go to your kid's baseball game was none. So why would you want to disassociate with somebody you've known for all these years based on somebody that really it's not at my level, somebody that I'll never really interact with? Why am I going to go and, to me, why am I going to not have a friend based on because what somebody believes that's a politician that is never really going to affect my life?
Well,
unfortunately, they're going to affect it at a different level, but not somebody that I would ever associate with. But here I am arguing with somebody that's in second grade, and and because you don't believe in abortion, you believe in abortion or something. I mean, yes, abortion is a huge topic, but at the end of the day, we've known each other forever and ever, and we should love each other. And I respect your difference, and my opinion might be different than your opinion, but that's what I've loved about the restaurant. It's like we accept you for your differences. We love your differences. Like you were saying earlier, we want to sit down at the table and talk about our differences, and we can still get up at that table and shake hands and hug each other and love each other. And I think that's what this is all about. And we've lost our way in that.
We have.
And it's just, we're going to get so angry that, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was an amazing woman, and she did a lot for this country. And, my dad was Republican. My mom is kind of in the middle. I have been somebody who, we've never really supported any political agenda at the restaurant. We're just happy for you to be there. And, but I mean, I respect people like her and that have tried to bring changes, but I don't know. It just seems like right now, it seems like the political facto is just to divide, instead of just unite. And I think the people, we should unite and not have to worry about what Biden's doing or what Trump's doing or what Cooper's doing or what, we together are in this together. The majority of people, we don't realize that we're the 99%, and we're all pretty much on the same page,
Amen.
And we just need to be together and put social media down for a while and realize that get out there and talk to people, get out there and meet people.
Well, you think about this, Kahlil, though. This is what happened. And I think that, we've got to acknowledge where we have messed up as a country and as people, take personal responsibility. What has happened the last 6 months? They tell you to stay at home, stay away, isolate. So you have complete separation.
Yeah.
So there isn't that human-to-human
Bonding.
interaction.
Yeah.
Your interaction is on social media.
Yeah.
Your social media is an algorithm, and it's feeding you things. So I think that we're seeing people's brains changing based on AI. I mean, this is we're seeing artificial intelligence at its very, I shouldn't say the beginning. It's not the beginning, but at its finest right now.
Yeah.
AI is programming our country, and it's causing the division. And if we can't call out the elephant in the room, if we don't want to acknowledge what's really, you got to see it, disconnect for a second, see what's going on. It's the AI. It's programming us. I can't imagine. I got a close friend fighting with his dad. I mean, this is horrible. I can't. What do you mean you can't talk to your dad? What do you mean? He's old. What do you mean? Come on. But I get where he's coming from too, because his dad is being a real jerk.
Yeah.
I mean, hurtful. But they're all programmed, and so that's why I say we have to acknowledge it's kind of a civil war. Yeah. We have so much division. Think about family against family, friend against friend.
Yeah.
I got friends that aren't talking to other friends because they don't want to get attacked.
Yeah.
Wait a second here. We should be able to have conversations, know our friends love us, know our family loves us, know that love is a lot more important than hate and division and anger.
Yeah.
But we're forgetting that. And that's the thing. What are our core values as a country?
Was family, was integrity. We're Americans. We stand up for each other. We're united. Yeah. United States.
Yeah.
I mean, and right now we should be called the divided states, unfortunately, because we're letting, like you said, the rhetoric on social media, the rhetoric and just the media, everything in general, just we're sitting there and letting it divide us and getting upset over what we're reading and which you have to assimilate to one party or another. because that's the American way. And it's like, wait a second, and these people really just, unfortunately, I mean, I know a lot of politicians. Our former Governor Haslam, and I guess he was a Republican, and I voted for what's his name, Bredesen. I voted for both sides. I voted for people. I didn't vote for parties. And and I've met Bredesen, I've met Haslam, and they're both really nice people, and they don't seem to be extremists on either side. And I think that, unfortunately, it seems like that's going away from those type of politicians. It seems like it's going away. It's going more towards politicians that are extremist on one side or another. And either way, it doesn't matter. I sit down and have a glass of coffee with either one of them and talk to them and respect them, and then they can walk away. Just like my friends that are, that are liberals or conservatives, and, just put your computer down sometimes. Go out and talk to somebody. Go out and meet people. Like you're saying, we're so divided because now we're sitting at home, the majority of us, and we're looking at our computers and reading that, their points are, doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, you have points that are being, programmed in you, and they're being validated by whatever you're reading. Mm-hmm. And so therefore that's right. And because I read this article, that means I'm right. And I'm going to come over here and tell you that you're wrong and get angry with you. And I guess because there's not much, for a lot of time, there wasn't much else to do.
Right.
Was watch social media or listen to social media or read social media and just get upset about it. And at the end of the day, it's not healthy for you, man. Your family's most important to you, and just being good to one another, as what we've always been, is the most important thing. And at the end of the day, where you are in life is closer to where I am than what somebody that's a politician, what they really care about, because you're my neighbor, and I'd rather talk to you and disagree and go out there and have a cold beer with you and just realize that it doesn't matter at the end of the day what our politics are. What the most majority of the thing is, do I enjoy spending time with you? Do I enjoy, because I'm throwing a football with you, you're a Democrat, I'm a Republican, or I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican. That doesn't matter at the end of the day. The end of the day is, going to your kid's baseball game, spending time with your friends and family. I just think that we've kind of lost our core values. We are a country that's supposed to be based on separation of church and state, accepting, different parties and what it really was, passing power to, and without losing your mind. It just seems like the current rhetoric with just politics in general is just getting angry and freaking out, and it's just like, this isn't getting us anywhere. All it is dividing us.
It's obviously more division than we've ever had in our lives.
Yeah.
And you kind of look at it, it's like, what can bring people together?
Yeah.
What is important? A lot of what I see, like, initially when the Constitution was written, we were getting our rights from God and not the government. That was kind of the idea. And, and I'm not like an overly Christian person. I was raised Church of Christ, and I had that foundation, though. And, I see a lot of the attack of God as in, okay, because I've been thinking about this. My concern is we don't have shared values that are known. I think we do have shared values, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think we should talk about and figure out what they are. But if you take God out of the picture, what do we have as our shared values? Because God's being removed. And so, that's kind of like where I've been stumped on how to fix this problem.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to have a conversation about what our shared values are. If people want to eliminate God, and let's say I still want to be a Christian, which I have every right to be, but they're not going to acknowledge God. Okay, what are our shared values then? What can we unite on?
I mean, family should be the first thing. Want to take care of your family. I mean, that's a shared value that I think everybody has in common. I mean, family, you want your friends, shared value. Everybody likes to, have fun. I mean, there's a lot of shared values that we all want the same thing, just besides God. Fortunately, we are all so much alike, but then we have one or two differences that are just everybody's getting upset about. I mean, everybody wants to spend time with their family. Everybody wants to have friends. Everybody likes to have a good time. Everybody wants to be financially stable, and I think there's so many shared values that we have. We, like you said, we're not looking at that. We're looking at what we're different. The few things that we're different, which is very few.
Yeah.
I mean, majority of things. I mean, we all respect the military. Just because you're kneeling for the flag doesn't mean don't respect the military. I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, I completely understand where they're coming from. To them, they're kneeling because they feel oppressed by the police, and they feel like their life isn't treated as equal to a white person. And and I respect that. I respect that they have the right. There's a lot of people who fought in the military that's the reason they fought us. So if people they want to protest, they have every right to protest. We live in a free country. We can say, kneel, do whatever we want, and that's their perspective. The person over here that doesn't want to kneel, that's their perspective. Both their perspectives are correct. It's just what they view their perspective as. And like you said, but you take God out of the picture, we are pretty much, what do we have to argue about? I don't even remember. See, exactly. It's like you take God out, and it's just there's not a lot, that if you're a Republican or Democrat, that a lot of things pertain to, unfortunately, Christianity. If you, which the one thing I never really, I was born and raised Catholic, went to St. Henry's. My daughter's at Father Ryan. Love Catholicism. I think it's, for the most part, the Catholic schools have always been good to us, and Father Ryan's been great to me, especially during this pandemic, and helped my daughter. So therefore, I'm grateful. They take care of each other, and I think that it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat and go there. They treat everybody the same. And on the thing of abortion, it's just, my thing that I always think of, and which goes against Catholicism, is I always view Jesus Christ as somebody that was the last person to ever talk trash about anybody else. When I read the Bible, and it's, he would do unto them as they would do unto you, and treat everybody, and he was the last person I don't think I ever heard him talking bad about anybody. And he accepted if you were a prostitute, or if you were a judge, or if you were not a judge at the time, but you were a pharaoh, or he just treated everybody equally, and just, would give you the clothes off his back to make sure you're right. And so then we have Christianity people nowadays condemning you if you go against the will of God. And it's like, wait a second, these were books written 50 years after the fact of Jesus Christ's life, but yet you're going to hate me. You're the first to throw hatred. I'm not saying that's all. Not all Christians do that, but some of them do. And it's like, how is that like the Bible? I don't really understand. I mean, I'm talking about a touchy subject, and like I said, I follow and respect your differences, point of views, and but I've always had.
You're pointing out the hypocrisy.
Huh?
You're pointing out the hypocrisy of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand.
That's whenever I said I'm not overly Christian, I was like, is that really what I mean by that? Is, when I think of a lot of the hardcore Christians, it's telling everybody else what to do. This is my experience of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell everybody what to do. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm holy, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
That's at least my negative view of it, per se.
Yeah.
And then I know a lot of really amazing Christians, of course.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, there's some people that, there's some people growing up. There's a Father Dexter Brewer that the man, you felt like there was an aura about him, holy, even standing next to the guy. And there's people that, you feel that, their presence. But that doesn't mean you can't disagree with everything they believe in, and still feel like, I just don't understand this hatred. Jesus, if you're basing your religion on somebody that seemed to be fundamentally giving and forgiving. He was giving and forgiving is the way I view Jesus Christ. He would give you the shirt off his back. He forgave you for whatever you did. well, why aren't we the same way? It feels like we've lost a lot of that same.
Well, yeah, no, that's it.
I mean, belief. I mean, it's
that's
just
what
like,
makes me nervous about taking God out of the
Yeah.
equation in America. I mean, that's because it is a foundation.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those shared values, what do you have? So I'm saying we got to have our shared values. But if we don't have God, if it's eliminated, you know, I don't know how it works. And, you know, if it's because that's what our country was founded on. And, you know, right now there's in many ways such a hate for I think that the Christian movement, the evangelical Christian movement, the Catholic Church, even right now, people are tired of the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you see the guy from Liberty University, Jerry Falwell Jr., you know, go and his wife is having an affair in Miami, and you know he was the president of this university, and they were very strict, no sex before marriage, and then they're out doing the opposite. People look at that, they're like, screw you, you know, you're such a hypocrite, you know, and you get a lot of that, and then it would be different, for instance, if those people weren't pointing their finger at others. You know, the people that are closet homosexuals, but they're condemning homosexuality and saying, you know, you're all going to burn. Like, just that hypocrisy is what, to me, causes a division. And so, in a lot of ways, you know, the left and right, you know, the evangelical Christians are, you know, generally right.
Yeah.
But the people on the left are like, oh, I see all that. Like, what is going on here? You're doing this, but you're holding us down. And I totally feel that argument.
Yeah, I mean, like reference the Bible. He who's without sin throw the first stone.
Yeah.
You know, and watch out if you're going to be blaming and calling other people out. You better have your closet clean. You know, because we're all human and we've all made the mistakes.
That's it.
And what I always thought Christianity was, and I believe it still is for a lot of it, is forgiveness and understanding. And I think that you have those extremists that are calling people out instead of, I mean, you know, I still go to church at St. Henry's from time to time, and thank goodness that they just pray for the leaders and it doesn't matter who's in charge. Mm-hmm. And I think if you go to church, and you should just pray and try to be understanding and not be throwing stones.
Well, you should just follow Christ.
Yeah, I mean,
follow his
follow his lead. Follow his lead, and don't get caught up in, unfortunately, the select few leaders like we have in the government or church that are extreme, that are spread hate, because that's spreading hate just and pointing fingers just doesn't. It's not. I just don't think it's the Christian way or the morally right way, or it's not united way.
No, it's not.
You know?
When you look at it too, so I mean, what we're talking about here, it can be controversial, but at the same time, like, people got to start talking about these things, because these are the elephants in the room.
Yeah.
That, like,
let's
say you have a far right Christian in the room that you're talking to, and then you have this conversation. It could, you know, like in public, it could become people die over this stuff. It can become a screaming match, like a one side and the other. Like, no, but, you know, we got to talk about it, because if not, you get the riots that we're seeing, you get the unrest, you get the people that, you know, I think a lot of what the BLM thing is they're calling out certain hypocrisies. Yeah, you know, and it was kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and I think it's so, you know, to bring up the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, it's hard for me. I'm a white guy. It's hard for me to ever condemn somebody for something based on I haven't experienced the life of an African American and seen what they've seen with their eyes. So I can understand that there's a lot of hatred there, and a lot of just feeling that you haven't had the same opportunities as a white person. So I could see the frustration, and in talking to a lot of them and learning. I mean, just being quiet and listening, and then forming my perspective and trying to figure it out later. and trying to solve solutions. But then the same should go from them to me, from me to them, being able to what I would view it as, or what I have seen, and like you said, to be able to come to an understanding that that there is no right and wrong, but we do need to sit down and have that conversation, and that's the only way we're going to, like you said, we're going to solve any problems is by sitting down and talking about it and understanding. And I can understand that, it almost like, unfortunately, like not all media, but some of it seems like they're exploiting some of these things, because there is white officers shooting white people. There is white officers shooting black people. If you're an African American, you at no times when you get pulled over by a cop should be afraid for your life. Never, ever. That's deplorable, disgusting.
We're not afraid, but
I mean, it's
but
sad.
they are. And
And
I when I hear what they're saying, I'm like,
That's
I get
scary
it from that perspective. My business partner, Dedrick Perry, I was talking to him about this, and we were talking about how many times I'd been pulled over by walking down the street. Never. Ask him. He grew up in Chicago. He said hundreds. Like, can you imagine just walking down the street and a cop like stopping and frisking you? I'd be ready to fight, man.
Yeah.
So like,
Like, what did I do wrong? So you can understand their frustration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On the same token, like, I've been torn over this issue because initially I was like, I support Black Lives Matter. I am absolutely against racism.
Yeah.
I think that there are major inequalities in the system. I think that there's solutions that we have that we could put in place that would help these things.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is it a Marxist organization? That's my biggest concern. There is a difference between the organization and the movement. It's too blurry now. It's too blurry now. I think that the organization is exploiting the words Black Lives Matter to fit their agenda of trying to move us to more of a Marxist, communist country. And, read the Communist Manifesto. And I was telling JP earlier, I want to get that book and reread it, because, I mean, this is out of the playbook. What they're doing is out of the playbook. And they understand, I mean, think about this. It's really genius from a strategic perspective. They're trained Marxists. Read the. It's genius because if you don't support Black Lives Matter, they all of a sudden want to call you a racist.
Yeah.
And that is so misleading. That's wrong. That is wrong. I cannot support that. If I don't, so I say Black Lives Matter, but should I say I support I support saying Black Lives Matter unless it's the organization, but I'm for the movement. Do I have to say that every time?
Yeah.
Because I know it's just not right. I do not support the organization that is Marxist and communist. I mean, the founders have said openly that's what they are. They just took off their website parts from the Communist Manifesto of what they are trying to do. They're trying to do away with the nuclear family. That was on their website. And I mean, this is just what it is. So, if we know that Black Lives Matter organization is a communist movement and all the money is going through them and they're pushing this movement out, do we support it as Americans? Well, and that's where we're seeing so much divide. And it's complicated even knowing that. How do we work through this? Because most people who support Black Lives Matter are not. They're
like I was
right.
saying. I was going to agree with you. Most people don't understand really what they support the Black Lives Matter, but the movement or who it's run by, people are uneducated on it.
Yes.
And they don't really realize exactly what it means. I mean, there's these girls here that had formed a protest here, and they did a great job, and it was,
beautiful.
For the Black Lives, beautiful. Great ideology behind it, and what they were trying to do, and it peaceful protests, and but then there were the ones that, like Antifa and other ones like that have a hidden agenda behind everything.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize what they're funding or what they're putting money into, or they just need to educate themselves a little more. And I think that's that way with everything with politics now. You got to, in anything that you see, you kind of got to research it a lot more than just one or two places for yourself, what you're really getting into. And I think it's or who's controlling the narrative,
right.
And
you got to do your research. I mean, that's what it comes down to, because, I mean, as good people, and I got ton of black friends. Of course, I'm going to support Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Of course, I am anti-racism.
Yeah.
But then, when you look under the hood, you're like, whoa, wait a second. I don't support. I actually love America. I mean, I'm actually very pro-America.
Yeah.
I don't want to burn this country down. I want to build it up.
Exactly. I want to go back to where we were. It seems like in the 70s and 80s, except for I want to make sure that African Americans and black people and Chinese and whatever you are should feel comfortable walking down the street.
Sure.
I want to go back to where we had that sense of family, where it seemed like everybody loved and wanted a family, and or you don't. If you don't want one, if you're gay or straight or whatever, you're accepted, and I think the majority of people in this country accept you for what you are or how you are, and the politics didn't play that much of a game in our lives, or made us get so mad at each other that we still didn't invite you over for dinner because you're a Republican or a Democrat. I want to get back to those times and where Americans loved America, and it's like everybody goes back to 9/11 and what happened there. And at the week after 9/11, there was absolutely no crime. There wasn't any hate spewed. Everybody was American. And unfortunately, it takes a tragic event like that to make us realize that we love America, we love what it stands for and still can be, and we love each other. And we're not going to let a few things divide us based on a movement, and the majority of people, like you said, support Black Lives Matter. I would say 98% of whites probably do, because we want you to feel comfortable walking down the street. We want you to feel accepted, and that's one thing at the restaurant we've always tried to do, make everybody feel accepted. To me, I almost go out of my way to make African Americans feel like, or people of different ethnicities to feel accepted. And I want to know, I learn a lot by talking to them, their perspective, and listening, and seeing what they need, and asking them how they feel about it. And I like listening. You learn a lot by listening, and you educate yourself by listening, and you don't have to always agree, but you're still learning. Educated one way or another. I don't know. It's just this whole situation and everything is just, it's like, where do you stand? And if I heard somebody tell me years ago, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. And I don't necessarily believe that. I think that you definitely should stand for different things, but sometimes it's good just to sit back, and you can't stand for something you're not educated in. And it's hard to, like you said, the Black Lives Movement, you can stand for it, but if you don't realize who's behind it, then what do you really, you're standing for the movement, but not, you need to educate yourself on who's behind the movement. I don't know. There's so much, it's so complicated now. It's like, it is, nobody really thinks of that. And
that's it though. And because that's where we should be.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a complicated issue with Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's so complicated because you're torn. But that's by the design. So if you look at the founders of Black Lives Matter, who openly say they're Marxist, I mean, it's out there.
Yeah.
And then you look at really what the mission is and was. It wasn't. I mean, it's meant to divide. It's meant to, if you don't support Black Lives Matter, you're racist. When in fact, the agenda is communist. It's brilliant. Good job as far as putting something that manipulated if that's what you're going for, you did it. But we're seeing a lot of our division right now because of the Black Lives Matter organization that pushed a movement, and they are manipulating people into thinking they're marching for things that they're not. And they're fanning the flames of riot. I mean, peaceful protests, please. I mean, by all means.
Yeah.
Everybody has the right to protest no matter what you believe in this country. I stand for that for everybody. I'm not for riots. I'm also, I get frustrated when I see people out there really fighting for something that they don't know what's behind it.
Yeah.
Really fighting, like getting crazy about it. Because whenever the protests first started, I absolutely supported them. I wasn't in Nashville for the bigger march, but if I were in Nashville, I would have been marching with JP.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And my other friends, absolutely. But, and because then it wasn't clear what the organization was. And it was such a time when it first went down, when we saw George Floyd die, it was so painful for everybody. And, I wanted to make sure that I didn't want to say all lives matter. I didn't want to say, no, Black lives matter. I wanted to say that because it's where we were. To me, it's where we were. Like, this is an important time to come together. But it got hijacked. If it's promoting just anti-racism all day long, I'm marching. If it's promoting equality and police reform all day long, I'm for that. But if the underlying meaning behind it is to destroy our country and to push a communist agenda, I'm against that. And that's where I'm at with
and
it.
so I think the majority of people would be and will be if they actually understood some of the stuff behind it. And, like I said, sometimes it's good just to listen before you get upset or before you're pointing fingers. And I think the majority of people, if they knew if that's behind it, they wouldn't be for it. But like you said, the majority of people are for Black Lives Matter and equality. Yes. And who's not? I mean, our generation was fortunate enough to grow up where we weren't divided, where we have friends that are different ethnicities, that we're marrying different ethnicities, that we're seeing, mixed babies of all ethnicities, of just a blend. And so we have friends on both sides, and we see the hate on Facebook and other stuff about, white lives matter, Black lives matter, all lives matter, that if you're not supporting Black Lives Matter, then you're racist, and all this hate spewed behind it all. And it's just like, these are the same people you went to school with since you were in first grade, and yet now because they're for this movement and you're not, then they're anti-racist or racist or for something and
it's brilliant.
against something. It is brilliant. It keeps you distracted, in my opinion, with what's really going on.
Think about this. We actually agree. Our country could come together fighting racism, police, all of these things, if it weren't being manipulated. There's that word again, manipulated by an organization that doesn't have our country's values, doesn't have our shared values. So the organization has a different set of shared values. That's why I think we should focus on shared values because
100%.
Figure that out. So,
and unfortunately, we have not just that movement, but a lot of the government also, pushing their own agenda because they're going to, like we were talking about, they think they're doing what's right because they're smarter than the average American, and they're going to do what's right for us, even though we don't really realize it, but they're not. And what it's doing is it's dividing us, and instead of just, fortunately, most Americans don't have a voice. Their voice is heard on the internet, so they get angry and extreme because they feel like they're powerless. And it's like, your voting is your power, 100%. The problem is, my key thing to voting is, you should vote. We should run for office. You should find these minorities and put more minorities in office and get more minorities' voices heard. But when that happens, don't get lost in the swamp. And I think that's what has happened to a lot of people who get voted for office. They come in with a good intention, then they get lost by absolute power corrupts. And I think they get there and they just kind of lose their voice. And I think that's unfortunate. Black Lives Matter movement, the Republicans, the Democrats, Antifa, whatever, everybody has their own agenda and is pushing it instead of just the majority of people in this country all have the same values and all have the same fundamental wants and the same fundamental needs. Roof over our head, electricity, running water, good education for our children. I mean, there's so much that the majority of people, have. And in Christianity, which is supposed to be the biggest, supposed to unite, is actually almost used in a rhetoric of, dividing and different things like that. Something so powerful, people are using it for their own advantage, and it's just, I don't know. It's just, I'm glad. I guess I'm glad I'm in the restaurant industry, because to me it's the ultimate melting pot, and I don't care what you are. I appreciate you coming to see me. I appreciate you spending your time, your hard-earned money. Whether you're washing dishes at another restaurant, whether you're paid by the people for running government. It's like last week we had Haslam in. Bill Haslam was a former governor who we love. And Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. We've had Bredesen in before. It doesn't matter. I guess the greatest. I've been fortunate enough to, it's like have all different ethnicities, meet people from all over the world, and we're all pretty much the same. We all pretty much want the same thing, and we love our family. We love our, doesn't matter what country. If you're Australian, you love being Australian. If you're American, you love being American. Everybody has a sense of just loving their country and loving the people, and we got to get back to that. And just, I guess every day I try to make a difference in what little way I can. And running a restaurant, I'm going to make sure that if whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever point you're at in life, to make you feel like you're somebody, and try to leave the world a better place still. I guess I still hold on to that dream of, you come to see me, it doesn't matter who you are. I appreciate it. And I think we need more of that in the world, where I think the majority of people, their tire's flat. You're passing by, you don't look at the person or what color they are or what ethnicity or where they are in life. You see somebody, you can stop and you're going to help them, and I think that is still the case. But then, wait a second, they have a Republican sign on their car, I'm going to go right by. I'm not going to stop and help them to change their tire.
It's kind of like that, though, now.
Unfortunately, it
there.
seems like it's getting like that, but we can still, I still have faith that we can go back to where we were, just by almost disconnecting to everything and just, getting back to our core values, and, and not listening to the hate. I don't know. Yeah. I still have hope. I still have hope for us.
That's it. Well, I was just thinking about how, like, if you were driving by, and I wouldn't care if.
Think about that. The scenario: you're driving by, and they're the person on Facebook. Say you're a Democrat, and that's the person that's spewing, while white lives matter, and you're a Black Lives Matter person, but you see them and their tires flat. Are you going to stop and help them? And the fundamental thing, I think the majority of people, you're on a dirt road, there's nobody else around, and why would you not stop and help them? It doesn't matter. Yeah. You'd almost get a kick out of it. Here you are, you don't agree with me, but I'm going to stop and spend my time helping you change your tire, because maybe you don't have a jack or whatever. I don't know. I believe that the majority of people would stop and help, no matter what their beliefs were: Christianity, non-Christian, abortion, non-abortion. At the end of the day, you're a human being, and I think that we're in our nature to be good to one another. It's in our nature to listen to one another, and just, I don't know. I don't know. I still think that there's a chance that we can turn this around. But is it frustrating to me being a local Nashvilleian and seeing my taxes being raised and other things like that, given that been here, my dad opened it up in 1983 and we paid taxes since. And
yeah, tell me, like, the taxes got raised. It was supposed to be 32%. Now I think it's 33, 34%.
Yeah.
How has that affected you?
It's affected us tremendously. We're stressing out. It went from like 42,000 to like almost 60,000, and people are. The argument I hear from other cities is that, well, you're still not paying as high as percentages we're paying in Memphis. Well, the difference is the property value here is astronomical, so we are paying more than you're paying, even if you're paying a different higher percentage of the total 1.5% or whatever it went up. It's $60,000. It's hard for us to pay the same price that somebody at the JW Marriott, that's a hotel that brings in gazillion times more revenue we do a year. And then it's also frustrating when we look at that and then we see Amazon, with the richest company in the world, not paying the taxes, but yet the argument is they're gonna bring in
Jobs.
jobs and travel industry, and more people are gonna come here because of it. And there's an argument, but my argument is, why don't you take care of the people that have always taken care of you? Why don't you take care of the people that have always paid for taxes? Why tax the small and give the rich people tax breaks? How's that fundamentally fair to people? And I think the majority of Americans would agree. How is it fair? You're taxing, I pay this much, and yet you own a huge company that makes billions of dollars, and you don't pay anything because of a loophole. Because, just like the NFL, I love watching football, but how is it fair that the number one grossing sports league in the world by like tenfold doesn't pay taxes because they do a few nonprofit things? And it's like, wait a second, how is that fundamentally fair? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that it's not fair, and we need to change. But I don't think given what's going on currently, I have friends who are lobbyists, and I love them to death, but they get paid by big money pays for them. So big money almost runs the government. And so when you go back to talking about taxes here, we voted for Cooper, whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, and because he said, I'm not going to raise taxes, I'm going to find another solution. And then the first thing he does is raise taxes. Everybody hears, a business owner, small business like mine, are frustrated because first off, you haven't made money in 6 months, and then the next thing is you're going to have to pay $60,000. Your taxes are going to go up. Where's that money going to come from?
And it's going to go more probably
Well,
when they do the
they're
adjustment.
Adjustment year. So people don't even realize that.
That's going to be like, well, have you done the math on your place yet?
No, but it's I don't even know. It's going to be.
Sorry, it gives me heartburn.
That's one reason we're doing the alcohol. Everybody's excited, and I mean, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be, people in Nashville supported us, and it's going to be fun, and we're going to, but it's not something I planned on doing yet. But if I don't do it now, then we don't know if we're going to be there. If we don't, and if I'm going to add the margin for a restaurant is so small, what you make on profit, it's not like I make a lot of money. I pay $5 a pound almost for my ground beef. I could pay $2 a pound and serve Cisco ground beef, which isn't as good as Bear Creek Farms. I pay more for my Porter Road Butcher top round. It's better. It's better for you because it doesn't have the same steroids and stuff. It tastes a heck of a lot better. But I'd rather make less profit and serve a better product. And that's one reason I think people respect us in the industry, one of the many, because we want to make sure we give you the best thing. But it's like, have I thought about it? And I'm like, well, I've got to figure out how I'm going to pay for taxes. Where am I going to, got to start making cuts. Where am I going to do? And it's just like, I don't know. I don't want to cut buying beef local and supporting local farmers. And I think that, unfortunately for them, they're not mass producing, so it costs more money for them to grow their beef, and they're not, mass producing, and so it does unfortunately cost more, which is really strange. You think that it would cost less, but we've got a system where it doesn't. But anyway, it's a strain on us. It's a strain on. It's frustrating. You've got Kerry Bringle, you've got at Peg Leg, and he's definitely been very outspoken about his view on this. But it doesn't matter. You've got like Nick and Audrey at Pelican and Pig, they're about to have their first baby, and they've been shut down like we have we did to go, and they reopened, and they're stressed out, and it's like we're all in this together, no matter what your affiliation is with Republican or Democrat, or it's the fundamental thing is family, taxes, that we're all in this together, and we're realizing that, we've got to do something now, and we've got, nobody can afford. They're freaking out. People are adding meals, like City House is it's funny, there's a cup, and it was from Tandy Wilson, and it said, I will never do breakfast, or I'll never do brunch. He always dogged it. And now he's, he has to do what he's got to do to try to keep his doors open. And that's what we're all having to do. We're all having to adapt, having to pivot, having to figure out what we can do to keep our businesses going, and it doesn't, it's just, I don't know. It's so stressful and frustrating at the same time, trying to figure out they say vote in local government because it has more of an effect on you. but then yet you see, the taxes went way up, and you don't see them in any way, or form, or fashion trying to, if they were that they're struggling. The taxpayers are struggling. Obviously, a lot of people losing their jobs or losing their business, and working and creating new avenues to make money, or creating new meals, or whether they had owned a store, they're having to go to different places to sell their shirts or whatever they were in. Everybody's having to pivot and figure different ways, and then you see our local government, who we're supposed to have more control over, was just say, we're going to raise taxes most ever in history, and you're just like, wait a second, there's no way you just actually did that.
He did it. He did it in the middle of the pandemic too. And here's my experience of Cooper, and I could be off here. This is just my experience of him. But growing up in Nashville, I had some rich friends as well, and but I went to public school, so there was a difference in kids that went to MBA and private schools than public schools in general. And as I've gotten older and became successful, I'm hanging out with a lot more very wealthy people and those type of things. And you realize, well, you're not that much different, except in, how you were raised.
Yeah.
And so somebody like Mayor Cooper has never really had to struggle to start a small business. Someone like Mayor Cooper has never had to worry about putting food on their table.
Yeah.
I don't know his full financial situation, but my assumption, with his dad being governor and brother being a congressman, he's never really had to worry about money or making ends meet, to the extent that he could lose everything. Mm-hmm. And so whenever he does things, to me, there's a disconnection with the common person. There's a kind of an elitist type thing going on there. And so, I've said from as soon as he did it, I'm like, it's like getting kicked in the nuts.
Yeah.
Like, we're going through hell, man, and you're raising our taxes.
Yeah.
And, and his arguments were, I was so disappointed. It's like an elitist argument. We have the low. Shut up, dude. Like, please, we're it's brutal. And so it's a lack of connection with the average person.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's not his fault. He was raised, with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Yeah, and that I think you hit it on the nail right there. It's almost like when you grew up in Nashville, and I went to private and public, and I can tell you the difference in that some people, where there was which even at private, you had some people that were struggling to put food on the table, pay for their kids' school. You saw that. My parents were one of those when I was growing up. The restaurant didn't always make money, and it's a good thing I grew up like that, because we haven't made money in a while. And I remember, you cook making your own food. You're making tacos. My mom would make tacos because there was a bunch of us, and spaghetti and soup and whatever the cheapest thing was to make. So and then you see a lot of that. You see a lot of that in public. That you see more of the diversity and the disparity between different people in public, because there were, at Hillwood, there were people that lived in Westmead, and there were people that lived in Bellevue, and there were people that lived in the projects, and you would see the difference and of what a lot of those people had to go through or their, parents didn't care if they went to school, or, they saw their dad get shot, or they, and then you saw that, your dad was voted most successful president of the bank or whatever. You saw a huge disparity, what different people are exposed to. And what you were saying about Cooper, an elitist, it's different. They've never really had to sacrifice. They don't really understand what you're having to go through and the stress you're going through, about to lose your business and lose something your dad started, or what other, something that's been there forever and ever, and just they're, unfortunately, even at the local level, you realize that they're even out of touch, and you're like, wait a second, I know that congressman, U.S. senator, or congressman or president that they have no idea what I've ever been through. But you think more at the local level, you would have somebody that at least would have seen. And so I think the majority of people would be willing to understand sacrifice if you've shown you sacrificed. And unfortunately, it's all about, even here, it's about, takes money to win. I forget how much money of his own he spent to win the election, but and his fundamental his platform was no new taxes, and we'll figure this out and run this together and take care of our police department, which I think he did give them a raise, in teachers, which those two needed, and but yet we didn't see them sacrificing it all. In fact, I think I'm not talking trash about the council. I know a few of them; they're really great people. But it's almost the point where they're getting out of touch, and you get it. They average about $650 a week. They make that a week to work every other week, which and I think they go in with their best interest, but it's like, you guys, you couldn't come up with anything else. You couldn't, there were so many proposals of, more parking meters, more this, more that, to raise money or to sell some property that the city owns or something, and to get rid of your health insurance that we pay for after your second term, or your retirement that we donate, match you dollar for dollar at, or something. There's just something, that they're almost losing. Almost feels like they're out of touch too now.
Oh,
And it's just like
the whole thing.
I don't know. Unfortunately, you feel like, wow, these people are also out of touch with what I feel like the fundamental values of the people of the city.
In Nashville.
Yeah.
We've been abandoned. Small business has been abandoned in Nashville by our city government.
Yeah, well, look at downtown. You can see that.
It's abandonment. This is what, this is what they don't see. It's true abandonment. Our group of friends, in many ways, make this city tick. And, we grew up here. Mm-hmm. We've been a part of the community. We've been here. They've abandoned that group, and it's shocking because they're so out of touch. They don't realize that's what makes the city tick. That's what makes Nashville Nashville, and it's so out of touch. I'd like to see how many people on the council grew up here. How many are coming from the outside?
That is something
I don't know the answer,
because, like you were saying, what made Nashville was there were it was so many small businesses. It was affordable to come and to live, to visit, to travel, to eat, to pretty much do anything, and everybody knew everybody, whether you were Jake Owen or Dirk Bentley or one of these. Nicole Kidman, when she came here, she assimilated. I would see her at Westside, and everybody was nice, and everybody would say hello, and it was no big deal. And I think it was a humbleness to everybody and everything, that even if what side of the tracks you grew up on, there wasn't an elitist feeling for the most part, unless you were like somebody who grew up in Belmead, where you were really elite. The majority of people were, middle class, working class. Everybody knew everybody, small business owners, humbleness. Everybody was so nice and welcoming, and that's, which I feel like the restaurant was based on. It was in 1983. My dad opened it. He had worked his way up from nothing, and he had actually, I remember in the mornings, he had one time was managing the Belmead cafeteria. Then he would go to H.G. Hill's house. Somehow he knew him, and he would go help him make breakfast, and then he'd go to work at the cafeteria, and he'd do this and that, and he worked, and I got to see him and his work ethic, and he still to this day could probably work me under the table at 70-something years old, and you get to see that old school philosophy of what Nashville, what it was about here, and you went downtown, and there was mom and pop places, and Vandyland and Rotiers and McCabe's Pub and places like Vandyland's now gone, and there's other places that are going to start going, and eventually, and you don't want to. You're losing your identity. We're losing our identity. small businesses can't afford to sustain here. Or, I mean, a lot of them, I know places that have owned property that ended up renting it out because they realized they could rent out making more money than they could having their own business. And in order to stay there, or otherwise they were going to lose it. And then you just look downtown, it's all big business. And then you find out that a lot of those big business are getting money back.
They're not paying taxes.
They're not paying taxes. And
Yeah,
you're just
I mean, look at
or they're paying it, but then they get it back. It's like their tax write-off, and it's just like, you're just like, man, we welcomed you here. We want you to be here. We want you to be a part of this great community.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, you're not a lot of them, but some of them, contribute some.
Yeah,
to
no,
it.
it's to me, like Nashville growing up, it's very inclusive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why has Nashville grown so much? It's because of that. It's because of actually the conversations that you and I are having, where it's open and it's not hateful, and it's looking at the full picture and understanding kind of to the best of our ability what's going on, and it's what Arnold's. What? I mean, what Arnold's is.
And that's something
that's what Arnold's is.
That's just what I strive. I don't. We're all in this together. I don't assimilate with a different side. I'm somebody who, I love you all. Appreciate everybody from Nashville. It doesn't matter, like Republican or Democrat, Trump hat, non-Trump hat. We have an employee who wears "I Can't Breathe" shirt. We had one of my customers got upset, say she shouldn't be able to wear that. It's political. And I say, she has a right to wear what she ever wants. I'd rather her wear an Arnold shirt and not be politically on one side. But if that's what, really she feels that strongly for it, let her do it. And, and she, a little girl had a Trump hat on, and she wanted a drink, and she went and brought her a drink. It's just like, doesn't matter what
I love that.
you are, you're supporting or whatever. It's like, we're all human beings. We're all, majority of us are paying taxes. We believe or not believe in God, but we believe in the kindness of people, and just, the humbleness of Nashville, I think, lives on in places like us, and City House, McCabe's Pub, and Margot's, and places that have been there forever. We don't care if you're gay or straight or whatever you are. We're all human beings. We all breathe air. We all just should take care of each other. And because the majority of us are in this together, and there's only the few that aren't. And it seems like the few that aren't, the elitists, are changing and have changed the rhetoric and making us more angry at each other, not realizing that, fundamentally, guess what? In a year from now, I will still be making the same money, and so will you probably, maybe a little bit bigger difference. But they're going to be making a lot more money. So it's like, wait a second, I'm getting upset with you, who I've known since first grade, and you're still going to have your job. I'm still going to have my job. I'm still going to pay taxes, and so are you. And, but they're not, or we're going to pay it for them. And so when you see this at a local level, it's just discouraging that when I've always been taught my whole life, make sure you vote local, because that controls more of your life. And, you're going to have representation of everybody. And I think that's, what we're missing is, like I've said it before. It's like, it's almost like we should go pick out our leaders from somebody but instead it's people who have money run. And, and my dad, who was a super Republican and always just, still is, the one thing he said that I told him was socialism. He said, he saw that happening years ago in like the 90s. And he said, we should, each candidate should be, if you're Republican or Democrat, they should all be given the same money in each of them, and then every candidate split evenly. And I was like, Dad, that's socialism, though. I was like, you've always been super conservative and da-da-da, and raised. He's like, but yeah, that's not fair. And I was like, well, glad you see that. I'm glad you can see there's a lot of stuff that's not fair goes on here. But I thought that always kind of, fair is what I always thought Nashville was. And it seemed like, we were an affordable town. We were small business owners. Everybody seemed to be treated, from my point of view, equal. Maybe not from somebody of different ethnicity, maybe saw it differently. And but it seemed like, I always try to treat everybody the same. And I think that it's not that we're not treating everybody differently, but it does seem like when you're showing big business, you treat them up here, and you're treating businesses that have been paying taxes for over 30 years, differently. You're like, wait a second here. It's you feel like you're losing touch of what made Nashville special.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the government officials are losing touch, and we do feel, at least I can speak for myself, I feel abandoned by the city, and hopefully people can start waking up. I look at what's going on with the mayor. I want to have a good relationship with the mayor.
Yeah,
I want to have a good relationship with the council. I want to have a good relationship with everybody.
100%.
And it's but as a constituent, we got to remind him where he comes from, and he was born and raised in Nashville. It's one of the reasons I really liked him. I mean, he's a local, maybe an elitist local, but he's a local. And you know what? We can bring the elitist locals into. I mean, great. Like let's talk and obviously we supported him for this last election. I don't know what you did, but I'm saying I supported him for this last election.
I did vote for him.
Yeah. So I mean, but you can't be tone deaf, and you can't. And one thing I have to say, like Mayor Cooper did not get elected to run the pandemic. He didn't know this was coming.
Yeah.
And maybe we would have chose somebody different if he were, if we knew that was coming. And so this has to be, honestly, it's got to be extremely hard for him. I mean, who knows what's going on in his mind, really? But I do hope he opens up and realizes, like, man, because this, it's not working.
Yeah.
I believe Nashville's being destroyed right now.
Well,
Kahlil, I've actually got to run here.
Yeah,
I have a very important call coming up with my accountants.
Yeah.
But let's pick it up again. I mean, we can
definitely.
always pick this up again. And, I'd love to see a book, like The Lessons of Arnold's.
Yeah, well,
Nashville.
we're writing a cookbook with Jim Myers, but I don't think it has any lessons, but it is something that, he's going to reach out to other chefs and talk about their experience and why they love Arnold's. And, but anyway, it is, I mean, we can learn lessons from a restaurant, from a homeless person, that you can learn lessons from anybody, that it's not hard to be fundamentally a good person.
That's right.
And I think that, and just a person that just listen and just their perspective is different than yours, that's okay. It doesn't make them any less of a person or any worse of a person, or we're all just in this together, and that's what I feel 100%.
Well, Kahlil Arnold, thank you for coming on the Nashville Current podcast, the legendary Nashville original Arnold's.
I don't know about all that, but
everybody go over there and support Arnold's. Buy the amazing food at the great price. It's incredible. So thanks for everything you do.
Just thanks to the people in Nashville that were still there. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot.